What if one of North America's most persistent treasure hunts has been nothing more than a geological trick? For more than 2 centuries, Oak Island's Money Pit has drawn explorers with tales of hidden vaults and pirate gold. If you enjoy vivid mysteries and deep visuals, like and subscribe. It helps us bring these stories to life. Many attempts to reach the supposed treasure have been stopped by sudden flooding. Some see an elaborate man-made trap. Others argue it's natural geology at work. A survey by Woods Hole in 1995 even suggested the seawater could be explained by tidal pressure against the island's freshwater lens. So here's the question. Are those fibers and symbols evidence of design, or just noise that fed a legend? You'll see both sides before you decide. And it begins with something odd found along the island's rocky shore. When people point to evidence on Oak Island, 4 items always surface first. The layers of coconut fiber, the so-called cipher stone, a fragment of parchment, and the dramatic stories of red paint flooding tests. Each one has been presented as a critical piece of the puzzle. Each one, though, carries its own set of problems. Let's weigh them one by one, alongside the scientific explanations that challenge their treasure-related interpretations. The coconut fibers may be the most familiar. They were first reported in the 1800s, found deep in the Money Pit, and again near the shore. For early diggers, this material felt significant. After all, coconuts do not grow in the cold Atlantic. The fibers became proof that people from far away had deliberately packed or lined the pit. Later accounts even say that samples were sent to the Smithsonian in the early 20th century, where they were identified as genuine coconut fiber. News like that electrified 19th century investors, making them believe they had stumbled on evidence of long-distance voyagers. Yet, alternatives exist. Ships often carried coconut fiber for trade or as packing material, meaning it could have arrived through commerce rather than construction. It may not point to treasure at all, only to human movement and exchange. Next comes the cipher stone. The story goes that at about 90 feet down, a slate-like stone was lifted out, said to bear a line of mysterious characters. Treasure writers quickly imagined it was a coded warning. However, later witnesses saw no inscription at all. Captain H.L. Baudouin examined a stone in 1909 and described it as a smooth block of fine basalt without markings. Basalt is durable. The idea that shallow engravings had once been carved and then worn away strains credibility. The contradiction leaves us with 2 possibilities. Either the original reports exaggerated the stone's features, or the object shown to later visitors was not the same one. Either way, that one stone shows how quickly an artifact can slide from evidence into uncertain lore. The parchment fragment amplifies this pattern. In 1896 or 1898, diggers using boring tools recovered a tiny sliver of sheepskin-like material embedded in clay. On its surface, according to reports, were faint letters, perhaps VI or WI. For those explorers, it was electrifying. Written text could only mean documents were hidden below. But here too, problems multiply. Specialists remind us that parchment fragments can slip into soil layers through contamination, especially during messy excavations. Without secure context, the scrap could have come from unrelated sources in modern times. Its potential as a clue is striking, but its reliability rests on unsteady ground. Then there is the famous red paint test. In 1898, searchers poured colored liquid into the flooded pit, claiming it surfaced through channels on different parts of the island. That seemed to demonstrate an elaborate flood tunnel network designed to keep intruders out. For treasure hunters, it was a dazzling indication of hidden engineering. Yet no modern independent evidence supports those claims. In 1995, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution ran dye tests of their own. Their findings pointed to a natural system: ocean tides pressing against Oak Island's freshwater lens, forcing water into the pit. In other words, what looked like a clever siphon might simply be the island's geology at work. This geological context matters. Scientists point out that Oak Island sits on glacially formed ground, with layers of anhydrite and limestone underneath. Such rocks can dissolve, creating voids and unpredictable water flow. Add tidal pressure, and flooding becomes inevitable, with no need for hidden tunnels cut by secret engineers. Consider the clues like tiles in a wet mosaic. Place the coconut fibers, the cipher stone, the parchment, and the paint test side by side, and they form the shape of a grand design. Remove just one, say the engraving that others never saw, and the picture dissolves into scattered debris. That fragility is the paradox of Oak Island. Each fragment teases, but none confirm. Treasure hunters through the centuries have clung to these objects, lifting them like relics. For them, the possibility of design outweighed every uncertainty. For you, watching the record unfold, the deeper question emerges. What do these fragments truly represent? Evidence of hidden craft or stories created in the gaps left by nature? And that brings us to the real center of the mystery. Not just the fibers or stones, but the tension between artifacts that seem intentional and the science that points to natural forces. It's this standoff between belief in design and trust in geology that keeps Oak Island alive in the imagination. What endures about Oak Island is the pattern itself. Fragments that spark huge theories, but retreat under closer study. Despite all the artifacts and more than 2 centuries of digging, no central treasure site has ever been confirmed. This is the paradoxical evidence framework in action. Small, striking finds invite big stories. Then scientific tests and alternate histories pull us back toward doubt. Perhaps the lasting treasure is the story, a puzzle that survives because it never resolves. Subscribe and turn on notifications to keep exploring mysteries like this with us. Which explanation feels more convincing to you? Human design or natural geology? Tell us in the comments.